So this is where it gets really fascinating. Jung wrote this book by the name of Ion, A-I-O-N, and he basically tied the fact that so Ion is for I believe it's Greek for 2000 year, a 2000 year span. And he basically looks at the collective perspective, the collective personality over a 2000 year time span. And he saw a synchronistic relationship of the spirit of the times to the astro. This is where like people might turn it off at this point. This is where it gets wooey. But he saw a synchronistic tie to the astrological symbols in the sign in the sky, because and the idea goes that the question might be, well, okay, how the hell how the hell do the stars tell us what the spirit of the times are? But the question really is, well, the answer to that question is something like, and I think what Jung would say is that we project onto the stars what we see the personality of the times as. And that's the great discovery Jung got from the stars and from the alchemist, was that in dealing with the physical substrate, they had associated a character and a personality with it, which in essence was a projection of themselves. And therefore, the projection onto the sky is actually a study into the self, into the individual. So that being said, the age of Aquarius, right? So this is where it gets right. I've been reading Ion, but it's a really complex book. So forgive me if I'm incorrect here, but there's this thing called the Great Year. And as the Earth is spinning, it is on its axis. It is on a tilt to the extent that it is slowly moving to a point where every time the sun rises, it rises at a specific point in the sky. And every 2000 years, the star formation, the constellation in which the sun rises in, changes. And the one that we're coming upon is Aquarius. And the symbolic nature of Aquarius is one where the personality of the times is highly related, is highly individualistic. And I mean, I think that's obvious that that's been happening, right? We're moving to an era where it's becoming more decentralized, more individualistic. I mean, a good technological example of that is something I was interested in for a while ago, and that I actually created content on at one point, is the nature of blockchain, right? It's an attempt to decentralize the entire system, financial and governance system. So I think that this individualistic personality and the synchronistic times that we're seeing might be a new era of myth. So this new era is one where the collective person lives out their own individual myth. I've written about this before. It's sort of like you kind of start following those intimations, that the calling and conscience. You start following those hints and those ideas that come from within. And out of that is born a unique and individual story to you, which I've seen come to myself as well, right? Like writing the Frontier Letter and recording this first podcast episode and putting these out, they weren't just born out of the blue. This has been a almost myth in the making as I followed calling and have analyzed dreams and journaled on the direction that I thought my life felt like my life should take. Even though there may have been great opportunities in the corporate world for me, as there are and have been, I decided that despite what potential benefits came with that, this was the myth that was calling to me. And I think that could also be a potential sort of new myth. And that could just be integrated into other ones, right? The overarching stories of the AI gods, the artificial intelligent gods, UFO, UAP, and another interesting one, simulation hypothesis, right? That's sort of a creation myth, if you think about it. So that's an interesting piece I have coming out in 2 weeks. It sets the frame for this, right? I talk about in the past how people in the past, how they perceive the world, how we perceive the world now, and why myth is so important in our lives. And then subsequently, I will have pieces come out about hints about each of those individual stories. So it's kind of like man in need of myth. I'm sort of setting the frame and kind of building that argument to see if it's true. Like, is it true that we're looking, or there might be new myths coming? And I think it is, but it's something I need to explore, right? I could be wrong. Um, so yeah, check out the Frontier Letter and subscribe if that's something that's interesting to you.